Hello, and welcome to 3 Points and a Poem. I'm your host, Mary-Lawrence Bevington. Our poem today is from the artist Prince, and it's a section, a verse from his song 1999. Quote, "Everybody's got a bomb. We could all die any day. Oh, but before I'll let that happen, I'll dance my life away. Oh." And that was, as mentioned, by Prince Rogers Nelson, off of the album of the same name, 1999, released in, get this, everybody, 1982. Kind of cool. So, looking at it in terms of points, my very first point really has to do with the fact that the 20th century was just full of change. We might think we're going through a bunch of change in 2025, which clearly we are, and will continue to do in 2026. But the entirety of the 20th century had all manner of change. A grandmother of mine lived to be 100. She was born in 1922. And I'll tell you what, just from her life to her death, her birth 1922 to her death in 2022, she saw all kinds of change. In the 80s, 1980s, we were seeing lots of change then. There was essentially a pandemic, HIV, AIDS. We were worried about the ozone layer. We were sort of hung over from all the social change that happened in the 60s, civil rights change, environmental change, feminist shifts, and to the 70s, and then again spilling into the 80s. Latter part of the 80s, we saw the fall of the Soviet Union and many countries in Eastern Europe as well, which they called the Eastern Bloc, the Iron Curtain, essentially. Throughout the 20th century, we saw world wars, the first and the second, many, many smaller wars, and this prolonged Cold War, primarily between the Soviet Union and the United States, leading to the fall of the Soviet Union. We also saw space stuff happen through the Apollo program, and that was a big part of the 1960s, culminating really in the lunar landing on July 21st, 1969. And yeah, so the world was shifting and we were trying to make sense of it. A little bit like we're trying to make sense of the shiftings now. So hope is good is my second point. The artist Prince advocated for dancing. He said we could die any day in his song. And if we're gonna die, we might as well dance. We might as well focus on fun. So there is a story. Prince didn't detail it quite as much, but he did a little bit. And then actually his drummer from his backup band, The Revolution, Bobby Z, detailed it a little bit more after Prince died in an interview in 2019. Prince himself died at age 57 in 2016. So the story goes that they saw a special on TV and Prince felt like his pals were super bummed out by the special. Meanwhile, he felt pretty happy and sort of full of hope, even though he could see that there was so much change on the horizon and that the earth herself was suffering. And again, when he's writing this, it's 1982, we're more worried about the ozone layer. We do know about what's called greenhouse effect, which we call climate change now. But the ozone, the hole basically in the ozone layer was a big concern back then. Plus just, garden variety pollution and, coughing and all that because we were polluting the air and depleting the Earth's resources. So there's a lot of feeling back then that things were kind of kooky and scary. So now we also have more intel from Bobby Z's interview in 2019 that they were actually watching Nostradamus's predictions as interpreted by whoever made that TV show. And those predictions tended to err towards the turn of the millennium from the 1999 to 2000. Now, fast forwarding this song has had many lives because it had a big comeback in the year 1999. It went back to number 40 on the charts because we were all sort of scared, I would say, of Y2K, which just means year 2000. We didn't know if the computers were going to see two digits of 00 and think that we were saying we're in the year 1900 instead of the year 2000, and that that was going to cause all manner of mayhem planet wide. And as a person back then, I remember hearing things like, don't get on an airplane because the airplane system might mess up and it'll confuse the airplane to the point where it gets very dangerous. So there was a lot of that. I literally remember being awake with my boyfriend at the time, and we were sort of like watching the clock tick to turn it to 2000 to be like, oh man, what are we going to do? But of course, we were dancing because we were buying into the whole message of hope, which is, it's a pretty groovy message, I have to say. So the third point is that form follows function. And I love this as an artist. I strive for this, and I think it might just very well be my aesthetic because I tend to land this way when I create something. So the beat of the song 1999, the vibe, the melody, it amplifies these lyrics. The journey is very harmonious in that sense. It always makes me feel like getting out of my seat, dancing on a club floor. I have to tell you that I almost wrote disco floor, but because of the DJ that started the disco sucks movement, people think disco sucks in the US, and it doesn't. If you actually go to Europe, they didn't have that movement and they still have a lot of discotheque. I think we just started calling it club, and obviously the music changed to like EDM and stuff like that, but it's really kind of like that disco floor vibe, especially in the 80s, because we still had a lot of the disco influence from the 70s. And yeah, you just feel like when you hear 1999, I don't care about anything else right now. I'm going to dance, which is really mindfulness. It's when our mind is full of one focus. We're not thinking about the past. We're not looking at the dark cloud on the horizon, concerned about the future. So, really, again, amplifying this message of hope that Prince strove for when he wrote the song. So, yeah, we got some fun points and 3 points in a poem. And as is my way, I would like to bring you a call to action. So, as we move into this year, 2026, the call to action is, how will you party like it's 1999? I realize this call to action is a little bit back to the future-y because we're going back to 1999, and it's really just a change within the 21st century that we're talking about. But the points still hold. So, how will you party like it's 1999? Hey, thank you for being here. Please let me know in the comments what your plan is. And I'm actively looking for a sponsor that I can advertise. So I've got a couple of you in mind. Holler at me. I've got 158 subscribers. I'm very proud of that. So your reach is going to be outstanding because it's super quality in this crew of subscribers. And I'm going to catch you on the flip side. Take good care, and yours in carrying the light.